Hi, everyone. I am so excited today because I have author Sara Ackerman again. We're talking about her brand new book called The Lieutenant's Nurse that just came out this week. And Sara, I just finished it. It's the last thing I've read before we were talking. So I am still in this book. I loved it so much. So much. I can't believe it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
so happy.
Love Eva and Clark. I don't know. This has to be the movie. It just has to. I have to see them on screen. I just love their story so much. And I love historical fiction. I read historical fiction all the time. But if you can throw in an amazing love story, I'm just like the happiest person alive. So you did it.
Well, thank you. I think all of my books have a love story in them because that's just, I guess, what I like to write about too. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You do. Not all historical fiction does, though. So,
right.
When I read one that has an amazing, backstory, love story in history, I'm just, so happy about it. I can't tell you. It takes, two of my genres right into one, and,
Exactly. I'm the same way.
Yeah, and I loved Eva so much. Oh, my gosh. I just love her. And she's, my favorite character this week, I've decided.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fun to write her and how she evolved, You never, when I start, I'm never entirely sure, and it takes me a while to get to know the main character as I'm writing. I know some people start with a really full picture, but with me it's a little bit more vague, and then as I write, I get to know them, and then I have to go back, and kind of flesh them out more in the beginning again.
I just feel like this is so, I read your first book, Island of Sweet Pies and Soldiers, and I loved that book, but this book, I feel like, Sara, this is a whole new level for you, okay? I'm just going to say that.
Thank you. It's so scary coming out with your second book, you just have no idea, and there's that pressure, is it going to be as good? And I've been really happy with people's reviews. Yeah, I'm happy.
I'm mad
so
that
far.
Somebody I hate Amazon reviews, just so you know. I go on Amazon, I read them after I'm done with the book just to see if people agree with me. And when I see somebody not agree with me, I just get instantly mad. And there was only one person gave you a 3-star. And she's like, I love this book. And I'm like, then why are you giving her a 3-star? I get
my
mad.
gosh, that's so funny. My boyfriend said the same thing. I don't read my reviews. I just don't. I have to admit, I'll read the first few and I'll read the good ones. And then when the book first comes out, and then after that, no more. But my boyfriend, I guess, looked and he's like, I didn't understand.
Yeah. If they have a valid point, I'm like, okay. But they were like, I loved it, 3-star. That's why I don't like Amazon reviews. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
That's funny.
But this story, okay, I was almost scared for you when I read what it was about, because I was like, Pearl Harbor, this is going to be so difficult, because there's I don't know, I feel like we learned so much about it growing up, but then you brought up the research that you did. I just it made me tear up as I was reading it, because I was like, this is stuff, because I know that I know some of it was fiction, of course, but the stuff that you, at the end of the book, that you talk about that you didn't change, some of the news reports and some of the communications, I was just like, this is the stuff we don't learn about, right?
Right. I didn't learn about it either. All that stuff was new information. A lot of it was new information to me. And I was a little worried about tackling Pearl Harbor, because everyone knows about Pearl Harbor. Everyone's got a grandfather, uncle, brother that was there, and it's not a new story, but I wanted to get a female perspective and kind of on the ground perspective, and make it new and interesting with a little twist. Right.
And that, but I thought that the way you brought those how you brought that into the timelines, I just loved that. Because,
thank you.
Like I said, it's we're learning along with you about this stuff, and it made it so much more real, and it made us feel like we were right there in the story with them. But I do love the beginning because we don't talk ending anyway. But I love the beginning of the, when they're on the boat over to Hawaii, and like I love how they meet. That's just like my favorite part. Like the whole romance. I don't know. I'm a romantic, right? So it's like kind of love at first sight, sort of.
Right.
Like sparks at first sight. Like I love that because I.
I mean, I think I don't know if you remember me telling you, but last time my grandmother had come over on the Lurleen, and she did kind of fall for a man on the Lurleen, but it turned out my grandfather was waiting for her. They weren't married at the time, and he proposed when they docked in Honolulu, and so she always talked about this man, and so that was the spark for the story, and but yet I wanted to tie it into Pearl Harbor, so because she had come in the 30s, and I mean, I totally believe in love at first sight. I experienced it, so I know it's possible.
It's possible. I know, and especially, I don't want to say too much. Okay, I'm going to let you tell. You can tell us about the story, and then I'll know like what I can say.
What do you want me to say about it?
I'm the worst at the beginning, so how they meet.
Okay, so it starts off with the Lurleen leaving. It's a 5-day voyage to Hawaii, and that was how people traveled back then, to the islands. And these ships were just luxury, and it was amazing because a lot of times they'd start off in these horribly stormy seas, and everybody was sick. And then by the time they get to Hawaii, it's beautiful. But in the book, she's one of the only people not seasick, and so she ends up at the table with the captain and some other men and a doctor that's going over for a doctor's conference, which just happened to be on burns and traumatic injury, which is true. They did have that, as you know, there.
Right. And like that journey over to there, like, okay, first of all, it starts, in November they're traveling, right?
Yes, end of November.
Yeah, end of November. So, how you place them in this time period of like, okay, it's right before. So you get the feel of like how everybody is thinking, about the war, because we're not in the war. So, and that whole like sense of like, oh, Japan's not going to, there's no way, there's no way they would do anything to us,
Right.
And it kind of is scary because when you think that there's a possibility that somebody knew something and did nothing,
Right.
Like,
and when I was doing my research, I mean, I didn't know, but I found that really fascinating, very in-depth article about the radio signals that the Lurleen had encountered. And so when I looked into it, I thought, wow, this is really fascinating. And a lot of people don't know about it. And it's still a mystery what happened to it. They've done all kinds of, investigations into really what led or how the attack could have been such a surprise. But
I mean, their technology, we know, technology back there wasn't like it is now, but it's also like you never want to think that happened and it was, like we were completely blindsided, right? Like you just like to think that somebody, even if they didn't know what they saw something.
Exactly. And so many people did, but they wouldn't, like, it wasn't coordinated, and no one really, told the other person. It was sort of like just a bunch of big near misses, people like, oh, that's the submarine, or, the planes coming in, the guys at the radar station. So I can't even imagine how much fun it must have been to research this. It was really fun.
To be finding
and sad.
And sad.
Fun
right.
and sad. I mean, the reading about the Lurleen part was so fun, and it was just so interesting, but also, like, I was crying a lot when I would be reading these accounts.
Oh my gosh.
Pearl Harbor.
I was crying when I was reading them. Okay, when I was reading them, I was, so it's such an emotional book. And, and just putting us back into that time period where Eva is like, so she has a boyfriend that's in Hawaii that's waiting for her, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think about like our communication now, and to think about like she hadn't seen him in 6 months. They were writing letters, I guess, back and forth. But like,
Mm-hmm.
think about like not like going 6 months without not just not seeing them, but like not FaceTiming or.
I know. I can't imagine. That is a long time, you know.
Yeah, it's and
So
then
different.
yeah, and it makes it more plausible that she's going to, she's young, so like, not having any real male attention in a long time, and then finding this very attractive lieutenant, like it makes it so you're like, of course, like she's young, she's like, who's that
Mm-hmm.
guy? I haven't seen him in 6 months.
I know. I know. It's always tricky to do the love triangles and make it realistic too.
Right. But for that time, it's very plausible because it's like you just realize like what she, as young women, especially during war and the military, being separated out from these men, it was, I can't even imagine. I really can't.
Yeah.
So
Me neither. Me neither.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, this is such a fun book, guys. It's 352 pages. It's that is like my magic number for historical fiction. It really is. Like, yeah, I have a magic number. Well, because of what I do, maybe. But I know people that like longer books, and not that I don't enjoy a longer book, but I like if you can wrap it up because then I know how tight that book is. Like, if you can wrap up a story in 350 pages, I'm, like, really happy about it because I know that it's very little, like, fluff that I feel like I want to skip. Like, I skip one word of this book. Okay?
Oh,
I read the entire thing.
I love hearing this because I'm one of those authors. I know most authors write and then they have to cut out, like, 50,000 words, and I'm the opposite. Like, I'm lucky to get to 80,000 words, and then I'll have to add another 10 or 15 or,
Really?
And so that's my writing style. I've always kind of been that way. With papers, if it was a 2-page paper, my paper would be like 1 3/4. Yeah, it's funny.
But you know what? That's kind of an interesting. I've never heard that, and I've done a lot of interviews.
Really?
Like you said, most authors are like, yeah, I had to, strip this down to, half of what I wrote. But I think that it's actually probably very time saving for you because adding seems to me to be easier than subtracting, right? I don't know.
I don't know because I don't have to subtract.
Yeah. No.
And it does. There are parts when I'm writing where I think I know I'm going to have to elaborate on this. I know I'm going to have to go deeper. And usually when my agent or editor hands it back to me, they'll tell me exactly in that place, I need to expand this.
Right.
But I don't want to it's that fine line, like you said, of I don't want to drag and bore people. And so I kind of err on the side of caution where I actually need to go a little deeper. So
yeah, and with historical fiction, you can get really lost in details because you know so much from doing the research, and then you're like, how much do I need to say about this?
Exactly.
You can get lost in that too. But I mean, you live in Hawaii, you write about Hawaii, and I'm assuming you're going to write more in Hawaii, right?
Yes,
or more,
I just turned in my first draft for my next one in Hawaii also.
That's awesome because I saw, these are your parts. Are you going for a book a year?
This was 13 months, and then the next one will be, I think, 15 months from that. So, yeah, for me, I feel like 15 months is probably good.
Right.
I'm not totally stressed out.
Well, can you tell us, what time period? Is it?
Well, they wanted another World War II story. I have kind of a fun, 1960s down at the hotels story, but they wanted another World War II, and so this one's actually around Pearl Harbor time also, but it's set at the volcano, which was another hub of the military, and it's just, it was really a fun story to write, different.
Well, I can't wait. I can tell you that much. I can't wait because I'm learning so much from your, it's like you think you know it, but then I've learned so much from your books because it feel like since you're actually there and you know the stories and I don't know. it has a whole different feel. You know the island and your description. You know, I just feel like I'm there when I'm reading your book. So I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, I am going to have Sarah's links listed below. I'm going to have the IndieBound link so you can go to your local bookstore. Everybody's loving that now because they want to, you know, they want to support their local bookstore. So I always put that link, and then Amazon, of course, you can get it, you know, Kindle today. So I love that too. But it was so much fun. Thank you so much for writing this book and for me. Like, I can't tell you. I walked around all day yesterday telling people I just can't wait, you know, to see what this does for you and to read your next one. Because I just think this is just, you know, like you have hit such a groove, and it makes me so excited for you.
Yay, I love hearing that so much. So nice.
You have a great day, and keep in touch.
You.
You know, I'll read it early, and, you know. So
okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Bye.
Bye.